Ira?
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Apologies, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can.
sorry everyone. I felt like today was thank you for having me. I guess because we've only got sort of 15 minutes to go, I wanted to cover off, so what I was covering off today was interview techniques, and a lot of what I will cover today is what I have experienced as someone who's taken interviews and been on interview panels, but also someone who has recently changed jobs and has done suddenly after 7 years a lot of interviews myself. So these are a lot of the things that I have learned in the last actually a few months. So I will give a couple of disclaimers. Interviews are well and good. It has to be covered off with a really good CV and a cover letter and a key selection criteria. And I think that's something that was covered off in the previous weeks. And the other disclaimer I want to give is around the visa status. I understand that a lot of people have student visas or transitioning visas. And unfortunately, yes, it does make it slightly more challenging than people who do have PR. So I do want to acknowledge and put that disclaimer out. I guess in the interest of time, I kind of want to make this a little bit more interactive. So I wanted to talk about, number one, phone interviews or screening interviews, which is what a lot of companies now do, and then also behavioral interviews. But before I jump into it, is there any burning question that you want to ask before I start off on phone interviews? Is there anything that you really want to ask around, or you're nervous about in terms of interview, something that, you know, you may have done an interview recently and you're kicking yourself, oh, what was that? I really wish someone could have sat with me on that one. Is there any kind of question or any concern, any areas of concern that you think during interviews?
I have one to ask, Samira and
Yes.
Ritika. How truthful do you have to be in an interview regarding, specifically regarding the kind of, some of the open-ended questions? I'll give you an example. I went for an interview last year, and they asked me, like, is there any area, I'm in programming, they asked me, is there any area that, you are not good at or you don't like or anything of that sort? So I very truthfully, I said that, yes, JavaScript React is something that's new and I've not worked on it much. And in the end, they ended up saying that, oh, that's the main part of the project that we are working on now. Yeah. And I was like, oh shit, I've dug a hole for myself in here. And of course I didn't get it, but how truthful do you have to be in those cases?
So I'll answer that with, we've all been there. We have all done that. So there's a couple of things there. In the position description, did they mention that that was a software that was, or that particular skill was required? They hadn't. Okay. Okay. And which is quite interesting. So my take is always be as truthful, because tomorrow when you're in that role and they expect you to, you will struggle. And the last thing you want to do is go into an organization and be like, oh no, I don't know how to. I'm sorry, I said that, but I don't know how to. You want to be able to learn, but you want your first couple of weeks, maybe even the first month, to be easy. You want it to be an absorbing exercise. You want it to go there and be like, okay, I'm going to learn who's who. I'm going to learn the tools. I'm going to learn the resources that they have, and actually then be able to bring out my skills. So I would probably, yes, you didn't get that job, but you were truthful, and you probably weren't put in a situation where that particular, if you had lied and hypothetically got that job, you would have really struggled. I will say though, I actually have been in an interview where they've asked me a question and I've actually asked, oh, but I didn't, is that something that was mentioned in the position description? Because I read through it and, you mentioned X. So an interview is also your opportunity to suss out the organization. It's not just you being the right fit. It's also, is the organization the right fit for you? And if they're not actually coming forward with the kind of tools and resources, like Harneet pointed out a lot of things in the JD. So companies that actually list these things and all the essentials and the, all the other criteria are actually then good companies that are providing you with a solid knowledge of, this is the minimum that you need to be in order to be employed here. So really critical to read the JD and, highlight those key things, but I wouldn't lie, no. Any others before I cover off? No? Okay, so I'm just going to...
Meera, they're all just waiting to take it all in.
Sure. Okay, so I'll just quickly talk about phone interviews. I don't really have that much time.
So don't be quick. I think just take your time, because a lot of people joined just now. I think they are waiting for this session. Okay. So I
no
know
problem.
Constraint, but yeah.
I do apologize about my delay today. Okay, so let's talk about phone interviews. A lot of companies now are doing phone screening interviews. So bigger companies will do phone screening interviews where they'll actually get their talent acquisition team or the HR team to ring you. Very rarely will a hiring manager ring you in the bigger companies, right? And the purpose of that screening in some of these companies is purely for the HR person to see, are you actually interested in a role and can add value? And have you actually kept track of how many roles you apply? Because unlike a job interview, which is scheduled and planned, a lot of the times phone interviews are just during the middle of the day. You may have applied 3 weeks ago and randomly at midday someone rings you. It's, I guess, their opportunity to suss out how ready you are, how quickly you can think on your feet, and also the kind of responses that you give to the HR person or the talent acquisition person. Basically, they're going to sell you to the hiring manager. So think about it this way: the impression and the rapport that you make with them is what they're going to tell the hiring manager. In saying that, one of the things that I have noticed is you can push back on the time that they ring you. So when I was in the middle of transitioning and looking for jobs, I found that they would ring you at whatever time. Like I'd be in meetings at 2:30 and my phone would ring, and I would sometimes pick up because I thought maybe it's work, and it'd be like, hi, I'm so-and-so and I'm calling for a phone interview. Do you have time right now? And a lot of the times I wasn't ready because I was in the zone at my work, doing something else, thinking about something else. And one of the things that I've heard that people do is on the spot, they start answering questions. They like, oh, no, if I leave it to another day, or if I leave it to a few more hours, they'll call a different candidate. That's not actually true. Take your time. If you need to reschedule, actually ask them. Just be like, look, I am probably occupied at this point, but can I reschedule at 4 p.m. or can I reschedule tomorrow? And take that time to prep for the phone interviews. A lot of the times the phone interviews are only going to be, a basic 4 questions. Why are you interested in the role? Which is a classic. They will always ask you, why are you interested in the role? And as someone who's hired quite a bit, I have heard everything from it looked nice to the pay is good to I want to work for government because I think it's less work. So what are the things around answering those questions about why you want to work there? Really think about why you want to work there, and maybe refrain from bringing remuneration or perhaps the fact that it might be an easy job. Like I think Aisha pointed out, some people kind of say, oh, I want to go into testing because it's easier than being a programmer. Perhaps leading with that might be a little bit problematic, because for the organization and for the hiring manager, they might see that as they're looking for an easy ride and they won't work as hard, and it probably doesn't leave a very good impression. So really think about why, for a lot of the times people talk about, I want to work there because particular organization, I know someone who works there and they say it's a great work environment, work-life balance, it's an inclusive workplace. I've even heard people say things like, for someone in a phone interview that I did said, I actually follow your organization on LinkedIn and I love the posts, and I was just very curious as to what the working environment there would be. And that person was really memorable to me because I thought, oh, what a wonderful, unique response. I never thought, people don't say stuff like that. Another couple of things that they will ask you is to highlight a couple of your skills that you bring to the role. So this is where the reading of the JD and really looking at how you will frame those questions. So what exactly is the position description asking for? What kind of traits, what kind of soft skills is the position description asking for? So if it's asking for you to be you know, whether it be a BA, because I've been a BA. In BA roles, a lot of the times it's asking you for your ability to manage stakeholders, your ability to manage projects and their timelines, your ability to, you know, deal with post-production issues and how you work with developers as well as users, and how perhaps talking about how you're solution focused and the things that you can do in that space. So really look at the JD and start to maybe pick out a few key things. Like for when I was looking for jobs, I picked out 3 key points that worked for me, and I actually put post-its on my wall. Like I wrote 3 keywords. I wrote, you know, the 3 skills that I have are, you know, my stakeholder engagement skills. I have, you know, driven large scale projects of millions of dollars. So I have, you know, project management experience of larger transformational projects. And the third thing that I wrote was, I have the ability to translate technical to the user interface. So I'm able to work with users as well as developers and people of a technical background to deliver outcomes. And I wrote those on post-its on my wall. And in preparation for my interviews, I would kind of like in my head go, yep, those are the 3 things I want to talk about. And it made it really easy when I had those phone interviews and interviews with people, because those things just didn't came out automatically. And I was able to talk about, you know, the skills I have.
I mean, like the basic questions, I think these are some things we can rehearse, you know, so that, and
yes,
the confidence, it shows in our voice a lot.
Confidence comes with practice. No one is, you will always be nervous. And you know what? It's okay to be nervous. I've hired people that were nervous in their interviews. There is nothing wrong with being nervous. I have hired people who've gone, can I just take a minute to think about that before I respond? Absolutely, please do. There is nothing wrong with pausing, thinking, being nervous, because those are all signs that that's all normal human emotion. You can't be penalized for normal human emotion. It is okay to feel that way. It's people that are abnormally overconfident come off as people that you probably harder to work with, and that gives off a different vibe. So I wouldn't worry about being nervous. What I would say is practice. Practice. I used to practice in the shower to myself. Like I'd talk to myself in the shower. Best place to, when you're calm, and, you know, just talk to yourself in the shower. So with phone interviews, those are a few things that to keep in mind. I do want to quickly jump into behavioral interviews. Now, I've worked for government for the last 7 to 8 years, and I've conducted a lot of behavioral interviews. The prefix of all of our recruitment used to be behavioral interviews, and the idea was to gauge really how they have performed and examples of projects. So what the behavioral interviews are looking for is how you can articulate with example what the JD is asking for. So one of the things, and I'll put it on a chat, I like to respond to behavioral interviews in this format. So when someone is talking through, tell me about a time when you were able to do X. You know, a lot of the people use star formats, which is also fine. The way I like to think about it is when you're responding, think about what project you want to talk about. Think about what the problem statement was. So project X, this was the problem statement. Think about the action that was delivered, and then think about the outcome that was delivered. So that then wraps it all into one good, concise, so you're not rabbiting and going into, because sometimes when you're answering behavioral questions, you can go on and on and on. Like I have gone, there was one time where I went on for like a minute and I was like, wait, hang on, I don't think I've answered the question. So when you keep the PPAO in mind, you're talking, I want to talk about project X. I want to talk about the problem statement of that project. So it was, you know, that we had less resources, less budget, you know, the user changed their mind, whatever it might be. This was the problem statement. These were the actions that I took to resolve them. And the outcome was this. That way you're putting it all into one nice, neat box and you've responded to the question.
Yeah.
Any questions around that? I know that I've spoken for like a good 2 minutes, but I'll pause for any questions.
Guys, you can raise your hands if
Yes.
you, I mean, like in the audio, not here, and then in the Zoom, and yeah, if there's something, or leave it in the chat. So Charmi is asking something. Do you recommend answering KSCs in PPOA format instead of star?
The PPOA method is something that I do for myself, I find it easier to think. The star it's very similar. So it's just the situation, the task, the action, and the response, right? Similar thing. It's the reason I do PPOA is because it helps me think a little bit more clearly. Like I've gone, this is the project I want to talk about. This is the problem statement. And often I say problem statement is because we give context of a project, but then we forget to say what exactly was the problem. So I was doing this transformational project. It involved this many $1 million. I had, this many things to do. But then I've forgotten to actually say what the problem was. What is the problem that I resolved, or what is the problem that I tackled that I am responding to? Which is why I use PPAO. Key selection criteria, the only thing I will say to it is stick to whatever format you want to stick to. I find PPOA a little bit easier because I can then frame my response, especially if you're applying for government jobs. Key selection criteria responses with the PPOA will really help you, because it's action and then outcome. So it's the action that you did and then outcome, which is, long-term outcome, short-term outcome. What was the outcome for yourself or the organization? I can even sometimes use outcome as what was my learning? That's also how I've answered it. How about CAR method? I don't know what CAR method is.
Yeah, I haven't.
There's so many. Sorry, Neha, you're barely audible. Oh, no, that's me. Sorry, how to answer such questions when you're in a mid-level role priority, do not have managed projects. That's fine. This could be a work scenario. This doesn't, unfortunately, okay, I'm giving project examples because my background is around BA project management. However, even if you're in a mid-level role, think about project as even a daily task. You can replace it. You can say, okay, Uma, maybe can you give me an example of a question that you might have been asked that stumped you?
Yes. How did you overcome a problem in your project, or what did you do that you consider is the best of yours? Something like that, on that line.
Yeah, that's a very common one. How did you overcome a problem? That's a very, very common question that they ask. I would actually say, you think about your daily work. You probably have problems on a daily, whether it be working on a particular task that you may not have been given enough instruction on, having to work out your instruction may be very little, and you had to go ahead and work out exactly what it was to deliver it for a customer or your client or for your team. It could be something as basic as that. So think about it on a very, you don't have to think about it on, look at it as a high level. What do you do for work? Like, what is your occupation, if I may ask?
Tester at the moment.
You're a tester.
Yeah.
So in your role, you're probably, even when you're, working with users, or you're working with developers, or you're working with a client, it could be any problem, even at a very, at just an operational level, I can say. It doesn't have to be a project. Even at
I get that.
I would use even those as examples. And then, with the PPAO method, you can kind of go, okay, this was the actual situation. The problem statement that emerged was this. So really important to focus in on the problem statement. So you're actually saying that this problem statement, I used this to action this. I then did this, and then the outcome of it was X.
Yeah.
Does that kind of answer?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks.
And I guess with behavioral interviews, another few things that organizations are also looking for are how your values reflect. So I will give an example of a question that I was asked where I've never been asked that before. So in one of my interviews recently, I was asked, talk about a time where you made a mistake within a project. How did you recognize that was a mistake? What did you do to fix the mistake, and what were your learnings? So it was a very kind of broad question, because usually people don't normally ask questions like that. They kind of, stick to what are your stakeholder management skills, what are your, anyway, with project management, things like that. So I had to really think about and answer honestly around a mistake that I had made, and how and how that mistake actually impacted the project or impacted the work that I was delivering. And it was just a really interesting exercise where I realized that sometimes interview questions will not always carry a positive connotation. They're going to ask you for your learnings. What did you learn? How did you learn that? So think about when you're preparing for your interviews, have a couple of examples of learnings that you may have had and how you came about those learnings.
Yeah, I think the intent of behavioral interview is not to grill you down. It's just to know how you behave in tough, stressful, or even good situations. Like, what's your maybe, because sometimes they even ask what are your achievements. They just want to see if everything is positive. How do you perform? So.
And they're also asking it just
because of the questions, they are not, it's the nature of the questions that we are like, oh my God, why are they asking us this?
No, I think the what they're also listening out for, and this is what I used to also listen for, what are some of the keywords? Like for us, for the roles that I used to recruit for, a lot of the keywords were things like collaboration, negotiation. So I wanted to hear things like that. I wanted to hear, have they collaborated? Have they been able to negotiate things? Have they been able to deliver on certain things? So really keeping open mind as a recruiter around, what are those keywords? So that's why the reading of the JD is so important, because a lot of those keywords are actually mentioned, and a lot of the key selection criterias are actually the questions that they're going to ask you. So that's a bit of a giveaway. Those key selection criteria are what the interview questions are normally based on.
Okay, that's
nice. That's nice.
Yeah,
I wasn't myself looking like, of course I skim through the JD whenever I'm looking. I'm like, okay, I have these qualities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I meet some criterias, and okay, I'll be doing this, but not like go over it 2-3 times before the interview. And I think that's a good information for me as well.
I think it's good to go over it and just highlight some words. You'll see words that are, and you don't even have to do it on paper. Just do a Control F and look for words. You'll see many of those words come up. That's a really easy way of doing it. Just put a Control F, and if you see a word, you're like, oh, I've seen it 2 times. Control F and search it, and you'll see a bunch of times. And you'll start to get a picture of, what are the kind of keywords that they're looking for. And you'll start to get a picture of, they're probably going to ask me behavioral questions around that. The posted method really helps, especially when you're preparing for a lot of interviews, because sometimes people apply for 10, 12 jobs a day, right? It's very difficult to go through every JD, but on a high level, take two jobs that you really want, go through the JD, highlight those words and put it on post-its in your study. Like I had them on my wall. I still actually do that for my work now. Like I've joined a new company, and just like key things I just write on post-it and stick it on my wall.
Yeah, I love
just things that I want to look at and remember.
Yeah, my whole monitor is like it's like a boundary all around it. So, but I like your idea. I never wrote my key skills. I think I should. It's a thing, and it's a thing which we stumble on quite often. We don't realize it. Like, so something, and then, usually the question, what we are working on, what project. I think that's the current thing. What we are doing is mostly asked. And we just
what does your current day look like? What does someone, and that was one of the questions that I used to ask a lot in my interviews. What does your current day look like as a business analyst? And so it's kind of gauging the different things that you do. It's kind of also gauging, are you one of those people who does task after task after task, or are you one of those people who likes a diverse kind of day? So it's really looking at your personality and also looking at what interests you in your work. Because when companies are hiring, then very rarely are they only hiring you for the JD. They're also looking for someone who can do work beyond. And that's the truth. Like they're looking for people who can, if the company pivots or if the department pivots, who's going to be able to take up that change and be able to pick up more things, or who's going to be able to go, actually, we require you to do this certification so that you can, manage this for us or handle this for us. Who's going to be able to pick that up? So they're also looking at someone who is not change averse, someone who is able to, who's open to learning is another. Sorry, her name?
Not rigid. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not rigid. That's correct. Yeah.
Charmi asked in the chat before, I forgot to ask her question, like, please cover video interviews as well, pre-recorded ones. So do you have something?
Pre-recorded?
Yeah,
okay.
I hear sometimes that this is happening, but nobody asks me, but frankly, I don't even know what to comment about that because it's weird.
Pre-recorded.
Yeah,
Sorry.
given one. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
right.
going to jump in just to explain a bit further.
Yeah, Charmi.
So I've got an interview with one of the universities, and the universities are still following that method of, sending that link to you, asking you the questions in it, and you record your answers depending if you want to put down a video, audio, or text, and then you send it to them, to the talent support, like to the talent team of their.
Yeah. So that's their screening way. That's very interesting. That's a lot of resources just for screening. That's
I know.
overkill.
And
That's
this
my
is
opinion.
the
That's
second or third.
overkill.
Yes, I've given such interviews. My name is Nidhi.
Hi.
Hey, Samira.
Hi.
It was really an informative session. Thank you for giving in your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And yeah, I was just saying that in terms of the video interviews, just take them really seriously, practice in front of the mirror, because you have at times the questions are not there. They just give you a minute or so when you can read it. But I would suggest do write down within that minute, because when you record it, they give you a question and they give you a minute to just summarize in your mind. So it's better you are ready with a pen and paper, totally looking professional, at least the upper half. And yeah, just jot down the points and try to look in the camera just as if you are talking to the person. So in those interviews, the main skill how you can grasp the attention of the interviewer is through your confidence, through your eye contact. So make your presence, because in most of the interviews, it's more in terms of what kind of personality you are and how you captivate the attention of the interviewer for those 5 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever. So that makes a mark for you to stand in the shortlisted people. And then out of if you have that power to just showcase yourself in 30 minutes, then it does leave an impact on the interviewer, and that goes the same on the video as well. So you can practice in mirror, just try to look in the camera, be focused, be confident, show that you are the person they are looking for.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so unfortunately I haven't actually done video interviews before, which might be an interesting. I'd be really keen to hear from you, Charmi, and to see how your experience was. Actually, that would be.
I only have
keen
2 days. I only have 2
No,
days.
good luck. Don't worry. You've got it. You just go through the JD, and as Nidhi pointed out, write notes, and yeah, just confident. Just remember that the other person, like, even if you are a little bit nervous, it is okay. Just speak clearly, stick to points, use less words. Less is more. I think a lot of the times we try and say too many things, and that's where it becomes, that's where words get jumbled up. And I don't know if I am trilingual. I know 3 languages, and if I'm saying too many things, I start to forget words in English. I start to forget words in English, which is really ridiculous, because then I'm like,
I think I mix up. I just join 2 words and say something weird. So
so which is why less is more, less words, and stick to, if you're using the STAR method, stick to the STAR method. It'll really help you. Before we close up, I just want to say a couple of more things. Going for interviews, and I think I'll reiterate this, is also your opportunity to gauge whether the organization is the right fit for you. Isn't just your interview. You're also going to see whether, the interviewers are professional, the interviewer, the way that they're talking about the company. So ask questions. I often in my interviews ask questions like, how would you describe your team environment? How would you describe the culture of your organization? What are the most valued skills, or what are the most valued behaviors, or what are your organization's values? Simple things like that, just to gauge, you know, is this company the right fit for me? Because please remember, yes, you're interviewing, but it's really important for you to be nurtured in a company as well. That respect is really important. I think there's a question there, how to answer questions in entry level. Honestly, it is just practice. Do you have someone at home that you can practice with? I, you know, when I was a graduate, I used to practice with my mum. I used to get her to read questions out, or be like, Mom, ask me questions that you would ask someone in an interview. She wasn't interviewing, but it was great to have someone to just practice with someone, a friend, your parents. Practice with me, reach out to me, send me a JD of a job that you're applying for, and I can help you. I've done that. I used to, I've had mentors at work, and you know, when I've applied for jobs, I've sent the JD to them and be like, can we practice interviews together? And that's really worked. So more than happy for you to send me a message. I mean, I'm sure you can find me on Facebook. Send me a DM, send me the JD. I'm happy to give you some time and let's practice interviews. Yes, definitely. Practice in the shower. It's the quietest time. You are so relaxed in the shower.
I actually sometimes, you know, usually when I'm walking, like to pick up my kids or something, I just open my phone and record my audio, and I'm talking. I look silly, but I don't care. Like
masks. You can talk to yourself when it's a mask.
And then I hear myself, and I'm like, hey, my voice is not good. You know, I'm hesitating. I'm like, I hear myself. So it's better. It's better than video, because in video, I'm usually looking at, I lose focus.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And
anything,
also, Isha, when you look in the mirror, it's an eye contact. Your brain just goes somewhere else. Wherein when you are when you're not looking at someone, your brain is concentrated. It's focused. You know what you're talking. But when you look in the mirror, you have your attention two places. So that kind of gives you better understanding of what you are saying, how you are saying, and when you see someone, when you're looking into someone's eyes, how you are engaging your brain and what you want to say and converting your language. So it's more effort, but it makes you really fluent and confident.
No, I'm not saying it's not a good way to do. I'm just saying, yeah, it's another way to do. Like, you know, you can also do it like with the audio if you don't want to do it in the front of mirror or something. So just like you would do in shower, or, you know, like.
No, that's all good. All the tips are really helpful.
And I think the other thing also is LinkedIn has a lot of interview techniques. So there is a there's a I'm pretty sure, Isha, I've sent it to you in the Facebook thing. So I'll post it maybe in the chat. LinkedIn has fantastic interview videos and interview questions that you can rehearse. Glassdoor is another website where you can actually go in and search the organization, and people have reviewed the organization, and they've also been able to tell you the kind of interview questions that they ask. So those are two really good resources that I have found. So I'll put Glassdoor in the chat. And if you are actually working in an organization, please head to Glassdoor and you know, maybe give your organization a review, or help someone with putting down some interview questions that you may have experienced, because it really helps people. A lot of entry-level jobs are also advertised on Glassdoor. So definitely something to check out. And I'll just put the LinkedIn link as well for the interviews.
Okay.
I think that's all.
Yeah, we'll just take one last question, and then if there are more questions, we can just, you know, like you can reach out to Samira. I think it's all right for you.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. No problem at all. Please do.
Or you can just put it down there when we post it on the Facebook, this recording, and I think Samira can answer in the chat. And so one last question, which is by how to answer questions in entry level. I'm recent graduate and lacking in communication skills little bit. Please suggest me.
Like, I think with that one, I did say that the best way to do it is have someone help you. So either get a mentor. If you're working right now, if there's someone in your organization that's your mentor, send them the JD. and ask if you can practice. The other thing you can do is send me the JD and I'm happy to practice with you. So the communication skills will build over time. You just need to be able to practice. If you want to practice in your own time, start with just thinking about what are the 3 skills that you're really strong at. Write them down on a post-it, stick them on a wall, and just on a daily basis, look at them once or twice a day. Start to formulate some of your responses. Unfortunately, there's no quick way of brushing up your communication skills. It comes with practice. Public speaking is another great way. So if you're still at uni, try and chair or moderate group assignment conversations. Start small. So really kind of build your public speaking. The other thing also is that, if you, for entry-level roles, look, communication skills I lack sometimes as well. Before, I was really flustered when I came in, and I was like, the first 5 minutes, I was like, oh, my communication's not coming out. Happens to all of us. So I wouldn't take it as this is a skill that I lack. It's a skill that you need to build. So it's also in your mind. If you scare yourself by saying that you lack those skills, you will always focus on that. So just think of it as these are the skills that you need to build and practice. Practice with whoever can help you, friends, people in this group. I'm sure there's a lot of women, there's so many mentors in this group. You can reach out to me, happy to help you with that.
True. I liked it. It's not something you lack, it's something you need to build.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Samira. I think we yeah,
apologies
so we
for
are
being
already,
so late.
it's gonna be 10, very late
Yes,
for people.
I'm so sorry.
No need to apologize. It's okay. It happens. It's life. Life happens. So it's all right. And yep. So it was a good session. I think a lot of people learned many things. Even myself, I'm still learning always, like from 1 year we are doing all this, but still something new comes up for me and an opportunity for me also to learn. So thanks again. Thank you everyone for joining. Have a nice week ahead.
Yes.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.